privilege and a pleasure to be here at this morning show. I'm really glad to have been invited by Aambra Foundation and Vinita Bakshi. I know Vinita for a while now, and I also know about the great work she's been doing over the years to promote the cause of women and different issues related to women. So I'm very fortunate and to have been invited, and my heartiest congratulations to the team for the wonderful work they are doing. Now, coming to my own journey as a writer, as a talk therapist, and more importantly, as a person, I thought instead of going the linear path and, just sharing about, bits about my journey, I thought to give it a bit of a twist uh, and, kind of package it in a way, or that may not be the right word, maybe present it to you in a way that you have some takeaways from it. So I decided to write down the three big mistakes of my life that shaped me as a person and as a woman. I hope you can relate, some of you at least can relate to what I shared here today. So before I come to and narrate those three, share those three mistakes of my life, I want to kind of go back to my childhood and give out this incident when I was about 8 or 9, just so that it sets the premise for what will follow. Now, I was, as I mentioned, I was quite young. I was around 9 years old, and my dad, who was serving in the army then, he had been recently posted to Nagrota, Jammu, and we, as his family, because it's a family station, we also shifted with him. So, as is the norm in the army, the first or the second day, we were invited over by our neighbors for lunch. And while the adults were all inside, they were talking, whatever. Me and my friend, my new friend, we were playing outside. Suddenly, this tall and hefty man comes to us, and he addressed my friend, and he asked her in chaste Hindi, "Tumhara baap kahan hai?" Now, I was a little shocked by the choice of his words. He looked well dressed, he looked educated, and yet he was using a word which kind of did not appeal to, at least at that age, it did not really go well with me. And so, even before my friend could respond, I retorted again in Hindi, "आपको बात करने की तमीज नहीं है, आप पिताजी या पापा नहीं बोल सकते." So I clearly remember this incident because what happened after that actually is the reason why I remember this whole episode. He didn't say anything to me. He just laughed it off and he walked inside. My friend's dad came to receive him and they all went in. I forgot about the complete incident. The next day, I had to go to my new school for my admission with my dad. So while my dad was inside the principal's room, I was waiting outside. They called me in, and as soon as I stepped into the principal's room, the person sitting behind the principal's desk was the same man whom I had reproached the previous day. So the first thought that ran through my mind at that moment was, I'm not going to get any admission in this school. But he was kind. He just looked at me and he smiled and he said these words that you're quite bold and you speak your heart. So watch out for that. Be careful. Otherwise, you will make many mistakes. And that, as you can now understand, is what I wanted to share as a premise to what I'm going to share now with you all, the three mistakes. So first of them was actually when I was around 20. I had just completed my graduation, and all my friends were applying for higher courses, etc. in other cities. I was in Jabalpur, my hometown. My parents were not keen to send me to any other city. They wanted me to do something in Jabalpur, which I was totally against the idea. I wanted to see the world on my own. We had led, me and I have a brother, younger brother. So we had led a very protected life with all perks and privileges, and a lot of rules. My dad was quite strict, and so we had a lot of rules, and we were raised as very under with a lot of discipline and everything. So I wanted to experience life and see life on my own terms. And so my dad at that point in time, fortunately for me, was fortunately or unfortunately, was actually based, he was posted in Kolkata, while me, my brother and my mom, we were still in Jabalpur. So I emotionally blackmailed her and told her that I have to go to Delhi, and I have applied for this course. I had applied for a PG course, post-graduation course in travel and tourism management, and I'd applied there, and I have to go and let me just go and see how it is. So I basically emotionally blackmailed her, and I had a word with my dad that was completely unhappy about the whole thing, but then he didn't say much, and I left. So I came to Delhi, I enrolled myself into that course. I found myself a PG accommodation. My brother, kind of accompanied me, and he saw through the entire process. He helped me out, whatever. And that's how Delhi greeted me, with all dazzling lights and everything, just to throw multiple challenges from the very next day. The first of the issues that I faced in Delhi as soon as I landed here was commuting. I had very little money. My the money that dad sent was quite. He was, first of all, he wasn't happy. They weren't happy with me, and the amount they sent me was barely enough to cover my rental, for the PG and my basics. So I could not afford autos or taxis or anything. I had to commute by those blue line buses that used to be there, and they at that point in time they got the tag of being killer buses. And I used to commute every day from my PG, which was in Defcol, to Chanakyapuri, where my institute was located, um, through those on that bus, on those buses, or blue line buses. And it was a harrowing experience, from eve teasing to the crowd to, even boarding or alighting from the bus was a huge. I used to miss my bus more, quite often. I fell down badly once or twice, and so it was every day I used to dread boarding the bus, for my institute. So that was one experience that still shakes me up when I think about it. uh, and following that, after that, the second thing that really troubled me was the food, because we used to get stale food in PG. Stomach upset was a common thing amongst girls, and it really spoiled my system as well. So that was another challenge. But the most important of all that really kind of affected me emotionally was the lack of family support and friends. Whatever friends I had, that was only at a superficial level. And I was mostly, I felt alone, and I felt that I had made a very big mistake. My parents also, in between, lot of times gently or otherwise, they would say that, why don't you come back and all that. But one thought that kept me going was that I can't return defeated. I wanted to prove something, make something of myself, and then go. Slowly I got adjusted to the city way of life, to Delhi's way of life. And I made some good friends, and what came as a lucky break was me getting this job offer in an international airline. So I was still studying, I was still doing my travel and tourism course when I got into Scandinavian Airlines, one of the European carriers. And that's how I think it gave me hope. It was the hook that kept me in Delhi for another 3 to 4 years. I did wonderfully well. Whatever I am today, I think a lot of the credit goes to those times, my staying back in Delhi, and that job with SAS. I traveled at the age of 2021. I started traveling internationally for my courses and everything. And that was a first from both sides of the families, my mother's and my father's side. I was the first one to do that, travel internationally on my own. And it just made me feel really happy, really nice. And I realized that what I thought as a mistake actually helped me become my own person. So that was the first mistake. Now coming to my second mistake, which is failing an exam. So after working with SAS for 3 4 years, I decided to go for my higher studies, and I applied for my master's in human rights. and I started studying for it. During my master's, while I was doing that course, I got married, and within 2 years, I had my son, Lokvidu. So he was about 6 months old when I had to appear for the final year exams. I gave my papers. It was extremely difficult with a 6 month old baby in the house. It was quite difficult for me to study, but somehow I gave the exam. However, when the results came out, I had flunked in one of the subjects. So I attempted again, and again I could not make it. And this time I thought I will just leave it. Just imagine 3-4 years I had studied for my master's, and now then I, I got fed up with it, and I said I'm not going to do attempt once again. At that point in time, an elderly relative made a comment on me that she is good for nothing, and I overheard it. It pricked really bad, and so I took it up as a challenge, and I studied properly for my paper, and then I attempted the test again. Uh, when the results came out, we had relocated to Singapore. So I received the news in Singapore when I was there, and I had cleared the paper with high scores. It just made me feel so wonderful, and it also made me realize two things. One, failure teaches you success, and two, that failure is never final. So this was my second mistake and the learning from that. And then the third and the most important mistake of my life is that I left the comforts of my Singapore life, and I decided to return to India with my 4-year-old son. I had lived there for about 3-4 years, and then I decided that it was enough. The reason mainly was that it was a mechanical life. It was a beautiful, lovely life. I had everything going on for me, except perhaps the marriage wasn't working so well. There were issues. But more than that, every morning when I used to wake up, I felt this emptiness within me. There was no goal in life. I was working, but the work did not give me that kick or that that thrill that you should feel. And so one day I just decided I needed a break. I have to come back, and so I returned with my son. In between, so I came back to Delhi, and my brother was already married by then, and so we decided to kind of pool in and stay together, and that's what I did. Uh, because of my degree, master's degree in human rights, I got freelance work in the social sector. I started taking up small projects and started working. I also used to go back to Singapore quite often, every 6-7 months, 8 months, or a year. Once or twice I would visit with my son. But that feeling never came that I have to come back to that country. I never had that urge. So I finally decided to settle down here in Delhi. And I started working with these small little projects, looking after my son as well. And during that time, during one such projects, this idea for my first book came, and I started writing it. And finally, as they say, its history, like the book did extremely well. It was picked up by Rupa. They published it in 2009, and it did instantly, it became a bestseller. It did so well that it firmly established me in the writing space. And since then I have written about 10 or 11 books. I just finished writing my 12th book. So the journey has been amazing. It has had its ups and downs, but my books are available across India. They are, read by so many people, women. I write on women's issues, and it makes me really happy when I get a feedback from a woman that she enjoyed my book. I have traveled across India, across the length and breadth of India. I started my platform, Talk It Out Express, in 2017. And we have done some amazing work under the platform for emotional well-being of women and of people, of youth. We have worked with youth, we have worked with children and women as well, and also with men. So these are some of the achievements. I got recognized. I've been awarded for my work, not only in the social sector, but also As a writer, I've been recognized and awarded, and feels lovely. So but it has had its ups and downs, and all these experiences, they did not go waste. All these failures and whatever the all the sides of of life that I've seen, they've not gone waste. And I want to share something from an excerpt from my latest book, The Temple Bar Woman, to show you how it impacted me, influenced me as a writer. Now, this book, The Temple Bar Woman, um, is a socio-political thriller. I wasn't really planning to write this book, but it just, there was a time when I felt that I need to contribute, especially because I live in Delhi and I'm a woman, and this is a story of a brave woman who, despite her tragedy, faces it all, boldly faces it all, and comes out of it. She refuses to play the victim card. So basically, the idea was to create a heroine, a woman who refuses to be, to take life lying down. She comes across as someone who's very simple. She's a village school teacher, and she's led a very protected life. But when tragedy strikes, she, instead of playing the victim card, she comes out bold and faces it. So that's the whole that's the story about. Now I'm going to read from page 125. This is an interaction between the lead character, Radha, and a madam of a brothel where she is sold in. So this is a conversation between these two women, just to show, I'm reading it out just to show how we need to, as women, we need to help each other, and also to show the boldness of this lead character, who refuses to play it down. Please think about it, Habiba B. We are both victims of his atrocities, and if we work together, we can expose him in front of the very people who you say think highly of him. Radha repeated her request, gathering all her courage. Besides, I am not going anywhere from this city till I avenge myself. Even if you don't help me, I will find a way to destroy him. The hard look in her eyes was enough proof of her resilience for Habiba to believe her. Yet she desisted from taking her word for it. She knew better. Radha's rebellious stance reminded her of her own younger self when she had taken a vow to finish off her uncle, who was responsible for the miserable life she had to forcefully choose to survive in this world. Years later, she had taken her revenge by taking over his hardware shop and forcing him to leave the city. However, this case was completely different. Vikram Pratap Singh and his father were formidable and ruthless men who could do anything to protect their reputation. Mala, this meeting is over. Take her back to her room, said Habiba in a dangerously quiet voice. No, Mala, replied Radha, turning towards the deputy of Temple Bar, who had been watching the entire proceedings quietly. Please stay here. I think I'm strong enough now to walk back to my room without your assistance. She said the words softly, but the message was loud and clear that she was her own woman. Turning back once again towards Habiba, she said, I will wait for your final decision, Habiba B. I hope you will give this some thought. Radha left the room swiftly, leaving a very pensive Habiba staring at her receding figure and admiring her guts. So I will stop here. I hope it gives you a bit of an idea of what the kind of heroine I wanted to portray, who's bold, who's her own woman, who's her own person, and someone who just doesn't give up. So that was what I wanted to bring out from this excerpt, and I think I have lived my life like that, and I admire women who lead their life like that. I also have a short poem which I wanted to, we have some time, we have about 10 minutes, so I just want to quickly read that poem. It's about women. This is from my book, book of short stories, That Woman You See, and the poem was also titled That Woman You See. Take her story at face value. Assume what she says is true. Judge her, and you get drawn towards the door of a bolted heart. Pretend, and you have lost even before you can begin. Show off, and there you make another mistake, for she is never impressed by that stuff. Accept her. She is more than she cares to show. Listen to her prattles and hear her silence. The pause is for real, rest to fill in the blanks. Pink is all you see? Look with eyes wide shut. She has several hues, a kaleidoscopic view. Accept her as you accept yourself, with care and respect. Love her as you love yourself, forgiving most mistakes. That woman you see is not the woman you know, for the woman you know has sides you have yet to see. So that was the poem, That Woman You See. I hope you enjoyed this conversation or this one-sided, monologue or interaction, virtual interaction. And I hope you enjoyed my poems and the excerpt that I read. I wish you all a very good day. Happy Makar Sankranti to all of you. Bye-bye.